Here we are. So you look like you go on holidays right now or something.
I always dress like this. I always dress a little bit weird. I always dress a little bit loud. Like you can see my glasses. Look, you can take off the frames, and isn't that cool? So
Yeah,
when my outfit changes, I just change the frames. I don't have to buy new glasses. You know what I mean?
that,
I'm like a light non-gay version of Liberace or something, or like Siegfried and Roy or something.
is it the magnetic thing to the glass?
Yes,
It's
yes,
like
they're
because you can,
magnetic.
yeah, unbelievable. I never saw this before. My good glasses are actually sent in because I they were completely plastic and no drill. They were like stick in, right? It's a new design, but then the plastic broke, and I went back to the lens shop, and I said, "Look, guys, this was the only. These are like $10 glasses here, but these glasses were $400, like the best thing, as you said. And now that plastic thing broke, so they said, no, I get a free new frame, and they have to put the lenses in. But then they didn't call me back for a week. So now, okay, so." Today, I drove Natalie to the airport. She is in London now, and she will pitch her Tribella thing to 50 at the same time. They're all in the Google headquarter in London, 50 possible investors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I
I
really,
wish her lots of luck. That's amazing. Good
yeah,
luck out there, Natalie. That's wonderful. I really, really hope that people take interest because it is important. I agree.
yes.
I get it. I get what she's thinking. And you know what? I just wanted to say your kids are really strong. Your kids, the kids that went through all the shit that inspired her venture into Tribella, they must have gone through some shit. And just like you and just like her, they are strong kids. And I want to say, good luck to them too, and good job as a
Yeah.
parent.
I'm curious. I mean, the reality is that the Tribella app without investors will never be existing, right? So it's like you need investors to put it up, and then everybody wants that alternatives to Facebook and stuff like this. Okay, then let's finance it. I mean, it's up kind of absurd that it's so hard to raise the money for this. Um,
With something like Tribella, though, I would think it's a little different than something like any old startup like Facebook or Twitter, etc. Because with this, there's actually a passion behind it. There's like a motivation. She's driven to
yeah.
make this happen for a personal reason. It's not just about, hey, I want to get the hottest new social platform out there. We're going to make a lot of money. Like, it's actually the opposite. And
Yes.
I think that's refreshing. I think that's what the world needs right now.
Yeah, because you have the feeling like, I mean, we know it also. It's not the feeling, but we know it. They're all in for the money. And they started plundering out our data. They make with our data all their money, and they don't share it. Instead, they want even money for the services and whatever Twitter and LinkedIn and all that stuff. You have to pay money every year to be in that exclusive club, or you have that, the button that you're certified, whatever. So no, yeah, I'm curious. I will see what's going on.
And I feel like those people like Mark Zuckerberg and even though I have no problem with either one of them, the other guy,
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, yeah, is that like they came from the earth, they came from a grounded source, but I feel like they're so ascended. Like Elon Musk he's the richest guy on the planet. Um, I feel like he's kind of become detached, like he's become corrupted a little bit. Like his visionary goal, like it's almost like what I was saying in my video on off the record. Like when you're younger, you have like, I don't know, better synapses in your brain or something that you're like achieving these great things. The older you get, the more you degenerate and the more stress you have and the more like toxins you put in your body. He was dropping acid and shit or whatever. Who knows what he fucking has done to his brain. I think that lately he's kind of fallen off the thing, to be honest with you. Like he could be great if he would get his shit together. He has the potential to be great. They all have potential to be great people, and they have such responsibility and they have so much money they don't know what to do with it. That's when they become detached. They don't understand why they become detached from why they started this in the first place. And I assume with somebody like that who's gotten that big, it's about more than money. Even though now it's about money, obviously. At one point, it wasn't about money. It was about passion, and that's been killed by corruption, fame, success. You've got to keep a level head. You've got to be, like
But
like the
he had a lot of trauma, right? Because his father was hitting him all his childhood, and he was in South Africa. They were in school. They got very beaten up. I read this kind of summary of his the book about him. That's the reason he only loves his mother. With the father, they have had no further contact, and so violence was a big thing for
no,
in
yeah, I
and then
I
he
get
has
it.
and then he has at the same time, he has this kind of awkward uh Rain Man kind of behavior, right? Where he caves in and he's super intelligent. And I think he's like this kind of autist where you this autism where he has that high intelligence, he knows how things could work out. He puts A and A together. That is why he founded PayPal and stuff like this, genius ideas he has. And
Basically what I'm saying is that he's brilliant, but he needs to stop dropping acid at shareholder meetings or whatever the fuck I read. I read that the shareholders were terrified, and I would have a lack of confidence in that too. I get it. He's the richest man in the world. He can do whatever he wants, but there's like a moral responsibility. He's a very influential figure. He's more influential than the president of the United States of America. And he has like everybody is all eyes are on him.
and he wants to work for Trump, and Trump said he will make him his environmental, no, economically watchdog, like for efficiency in the government. That could be actually a good thing to have a guy like Elon Musk going through some bureaucracy and trying to change it. But we cannot really see that he controls Twitter in a way that it makes money or something, right? So I think with Twitter, he made a big mistake for himself. Then he dicked himself, but then he enjoyed it that he felt, okay, look, I can change people's status. I can shadow ban people. I can make sure everybody sees my Twitters, what coming out. And that is exactly coming only quick back to Tribella. That is exactly what should not be in the internet, right? If you put up something and you say it's a social network where you interact with your friends or you find new friends or whatever, but then you kind of George Orwell's Big Brother. That's the thing. I think the only censorship with the social media is when it comes to that kids getting confronted with racism, bullying, porn, like you see like people killing each other. So that's not acceptable. That has to be blocked off for everybody under 18. That is what they should do. But what they also do is they Zuckerberg just admitted it last week that he got pressured from the government to lie about the COVID situation. Like so they made it more. They wanted at that point in Germany was the same that everybody gets vaccinated. So they basically threatened the people that they will all die if they're not getting vaccinated. They overdid it a little for the sake of good that the people getting as fast as possible vaccinated. But it's still not okay to over exaggerate, to over like to scare people with like whatever.
Well, one thing I just want to counter to that, even though that period of time totally sucked and it did fuck up our economy, and there is a lot of negative things that happened there because of the shutdown and the vaccine craziness. I experienced that firsthand when I worked at fucking Universal. I go in, touch something like to write something on the board. Woman goes up, starts brushing off the marker that I use, saying, "We're gonna get Gary's germs off this thing." And I was like, what the fuck? And then she's like, I'm like, you can't treat people that way. And she's like, I can do whatever I want because it's true. You don't know if you have COVID just because I mentioned that I wasn't feeling well that day,
Uh,
even though I knew it's fucking crazy. And I blame it on Because I blame it on this is something that is unprecedented, truly. It has never happened before. And if it has happened before, in like the Black Death, we were not alive to experience it. We have only seen it in history books. You know what I mean? So far, the CDC and all those fuckers gotten us, have made us very safe. That's awesome. They've eradicated many diseases. Right now, there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of like people are propping themselves up, even if they haven't earned it, and making themselves feel like they are the source or like their family is the source. They know better. Old Joe on the corner knows better because I've known him for 20 years or some bullshit like that. And fucking they they don't take the vaccine, and the vaccine, we didn't know what was going on. They didn't know what was going on. They thought the information that they were given at the time was like, oh my God, we could die. People are dying. Like a couple 100,000 of people died in the US because they weren't prepared for this, the old people, the sick people. So they were like, oh shit, we don't really know what's going on. We've got to move fast. And everybody should take this so we can just go away and we go back to normal. And then meanwhile, there's the people who are like, fuck that shit, that will cause me to die. It'll cause me to drop dead and all this other stuff. The conspiracy. Who knows? I took the fucking thing. I had the booster. When I took the booster, same thing with my wife. We both felt kind of ill. It's true. I mean, it's not, but it did protect you. And it doesn't stop you from getting COVID. See, I think there was a lot of miscommunication because it was so fucking bizarre, new on a mass scale, that like a lot of misinformation was going around. And then people were questioning the actual CDC and shit, trying to say Fauci's a liar and shit. He's just trying to go with the information, the data they've been given. They make a decision for the greater good of the people. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know. I see both sides because yeah, I have not been boosted a third or fourth time. I have not, and I have had COVID and it sucked, but it wasn't like I didn't drop dead.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's the thing. It's like I agree with what you said, and I'm also um, saying that in our here Ball Blasberg podcast. At that time period, you did maybe things, or the politicians and the Faucis of this world did maybe things they were in retrospective wrong. They were maybe too much,
yeah,
closing kindergartens, closing schools, locking people basically up at home, especially in big cities like New York. It was absolutely horrible to be. So, but you always know it better after. Right. So, and that's the thing why I would not judge them now only negative, because at that time period, the panic was high. You don't know how deadly it is. And you also didn't know how that vaccine really works on the long term. So, they had a vaccine, it was obviously approved, but because it was blocking kind of the virus getting bigger into your body, like that you get like a very deadly COVID. But then later they of course found out that for most of the people COVID was not a life-threatening disease. You would have to have diabetes, you would have to have been very old, or cancer. Your whole immune system must be completely down, and then you get COVID, then you could die. So that's the reality. And I mean, that's, for me, I'm not pro now forever talking about, but because there are millions of people worldwide since COVID, they mistrust the government, they mistrust science, and they turned onto the dark side, basically, against science. And they think it was all on purpose to control the masses, to control me, to whatever, undermine the freedom. So that's the problem, what that created in the COVID times. But so what do you
you
think?
know,
Yeah,
well, I think that it was a hard time. It was a psychologically pressing time here in Florida, close to the theme parks. It was like living a Resident Evil movie because there was this huge multi-million dollar shit, completely functional, and nobody's using it. Bizarre, and the social attitude sucked. Everybody out there had a traumatic event. Some weird shit happened over COVID. You lost your restaurant. Big changes happened.
yeah, yes,
And it hurt people hard, and they remember it really bad. They remember it as the worst time of their life. And they're looking for someone to blame. And they're like, fuck you, world. Whose fault is this? Who did this to me? It wasn't me. It was the government. And
yeah,
it's an easy target. It's a fucking very easy target. but you have to understand that we're living through a historic moment. We're living through history. We are experiencing a historic event of unprecedented scale. Like, understand the magnitude of that, everybody. Like, everybody across the world was affected by this at the same time.
Yeah.
So everybody's pissed off, looking for someone to blame. Let's be reasonable in our witch hunt for justice. Like, let's not, oh, it must have been Fauci. Oh, but we're guessing. We're like, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get someone. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what their face is. They worked with them, so they're guilty. Let's stop having this like absolutionism, this like collective thinking. We're like, they're all Democrats and all of them, they're the fault. And people make mistakes. We've all fucked up and the government's just trying their best. They're
Yeah.
not perfect.
I
Yeah.
I watched recently on Netflix this 9-part episodes about the nuclear bomb and the Cold War, and it started at the Russian Revolution and ends now with the Ukraine war and now Putin. And there were a few things in I'm very good with history and I read a lot of whatever, but there were things in I forgot maybe, and I had no clue about it. And the one thing what is very threatening is that there were around 40 to 50 false alarms for nuclear attack in the history. So means the guys in the bunker in the US, in that where the nuclear bombs are, whatever, they got the alarm. The Russians sent the nuclear bombs. They're on the way. We have an hour to respond.
Well, that's
And
why they had those freaking drill alarms. Like, remember the kids in the 50s had to hide under their desks or
yeah,
something?
but also you remember the film from John Badham, where the Third World War actually happens. What was the name again? Oh, famous film in US. Everybody watched it.
1984? No.
Nein, where the bombs landing. Warte mal.
Brazil?
Nein. Wait 1 second.
Mm,
US film
not Brazil.
about nuclear war. 1 second. And the day after.
Day after. Okay.
Yeah, day after. And wait, like the best nuclear war.
Mm.
And is Threats. That's the day after. And there was another one. Wait. The War Game.
Oh, with
And
Matthew Broderick. I remember that one.
exactly. And uh yeah, so and but that's not the point. The point is that with computer failure and when now with AI and stuff like this, uh it could end up for us that we all die based on just a chip mistake,
It's
that's
like the Terminator.
Yes, yes. A lot of when you see that in a documentary, one time it was the Russians. So there was a Russian guy sitting in a bunker, and he saw 5 nuclear warheads from America coming into Russia. And he made the decision that he doesn't believe what he sees on the radar because he felt like, and he says it in the interview in the doku, uh, if America would try to nuke Russia, they would not do 5 bombs. They do 1,000 bombs to make sure it's over, right? So you're not doing like, okay, let's go first and we do 5 bombs. I mean, what's the fuck? What's the point? Russia is so big, you need a lot of bombs to do really nuclear kill everybody in Russia. So that is the reason he didn't report it at all. He just basically switched the computer off and called it a day, and nothing happened. And in the US, there was another situation where a guy called then the president's office. The president was not there. So there was no response. And he said, and then it turned out it was a computer chip was broken in the system. And and I mean, in this, when they tell these stories, you learn 2 things. Uh, if you don't reach the president, then nothing happens. I mean, it's completely insane if you think about it, right? So you could that, but the message there is with a nuclear first strike, you could actually win the war if the other party fucks it completely up and they don't react, right? So that shows like nuclear bombs should really get off the map. We should not have nuclear bombs
Oh
because
yeah.
the accidental damage is too big because it's fatal. That was it. If that happens and we have the full on exchange between 25,000 bombs in the one direction, 25,000 bombs in the other direction, it's all over. So because the nuclear fallout will kill us all. And
You know something? Wait,
that made
I
me
just wanted
very
to point.
unsafe watching that doku. You know, the doku was this kind of like, we are moving in the wrong direction here because we want to station here, right here where I live. They station new nuclear bombs next year, right? So, and the Russians say already we are not. That brings the balance completely out of control. And in Germany are a lot of nuclear bombs. You know, so and it's just not okay. It's a horrific kind of threat because, of course, wherever the nuclear bombs are, the other side has tons of nuclear bombs aiming at the nuclear bombs. So that means, like where I live, I'm definitely dead if there's an accident. So that's the
I
problem.
I have a question for you as a filmmaker. This is actually a very good question, and it's about what you just said. So you're familiar with film. You've obviously seen a lot of films. You've seen every film, right?
Not
So
every film, but a lot of films. Yeah.
a lot of films, yeah. You've seen a lot of films. You've probably seen more films than I have. But every time that film has tried to capture nuclear fallout, like the movies that it does are so candy coated that it doesn't really capture the horror and intensity of it. I think the movies that we've seen, there's some of them that go a little bit edgy, but most of them are fluff. Like look at Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Like Christopher Reeve really wanted to make this movie to show the kids how bad nuclear war is and that we need to get rid of nukes. But the movie is cheesy and makes the subject look like a joke because the movie is cheesy. So you can't make movies like Superman 4 or movies like Indiana Jones with nuclear stuff in the background or whatever, because on film, it just looks like beautiful art. You don't understand the true disaster. Terminator kind of captured it in Terminator 2, just a little bit with that dream sequence.
Yeah, you
But
see the destruction. What will happen? Like you are pulverized in a very short term. You remember at the fans that there was a great shot, and I mean, I definitely in Postal made a joke about it when you see
at
Postal.
the end, yes.
Yes, so where there you have that kind of beautiful image of the mushroom thing going up, uh, but um,
But my point is really, when
yeah,
have you seen like that real hard-hitting nuclear war movie? You should think about that maybe as a concept, and then maybe you can figure out it, develop it on your in your mind, because there's all these types of films and there's all these subject matters that have been captured on film, but they've been captured on film incorrectly, or we've been captured on film with like a cushion. There's never been real unfiltered, like a mainstream film that shows like the horror and intensity of what would happen if there was a nuclear war.
no.
Not a movie like
But
Geostorm or
I
some
think
shit.
also, I think also nobody really wants to see it, right? And but the other thing, what I wanted to bring, because when Elon Musk said the whole time when he would be under Trump working and he wants to serve America, and everybody who just looks into capitalism as we don't need a social welfare net or in general that the government cannot. Poor capitalism leads to catastrophic disaster. And the one thing what happened in Russia, what is in the documentary also, is when basically the perestroika came and the war was over and Gorbachev basically dissolved the whole Soviet Union, right? And then
Yes.
Boris Yeltsin took over from Gorbachev as the president from Russia. And Gorbachev was still the president of the Soviet Union, what was not really existing. There were two people in Moscow basically at the same time president. So, and Yeltsin just let the new capitalism, McDonald's came to Moscow and whatever, roll. And there were so many, and that is the shocking part in the docu when you see people were dying on the streets, they were starving to death because there was no more socialism. And that's the thing. When everybody always says socialism is the worst thing ever, but in socialism, also in Eastern Germany at that point, nobody was starving, nobody was homeless. Everybody had the place in kindergarten. Everybody had the place in school. Yes, the overall living conditions in socialism were way below US or West Germany or whatever, way below, right? But when you just let it run, and that was kind of an experimental time in Russian history because Yeltsin was the first actually voted in president for 75 years in Russia at that point, right? So, and now the first time the party, the Communist Party, lost their grip and let it go. Like, okay, now we are capitalists, whatever. Everybody can do whatever the fuck they want. So what happens then? Few people owned everything. After a short while, the oligarchs owned all of it, like all the manufacturing, all the oil, everything. And most of the other people were begging on the streets for food. The supermarkets were only there for rich people, and everybody else was not even like in the normal supermarkets for the like the discounters. Basically for the normal people, they had nothing, they had no product because there was no cash to order it in Spain, in wherever you order food for the supermarket. So, and that was very shocking to see because that brings this thing back, what the idea what Trump and the Republicans and always have is, if you let it go, then you as the working class person will have the biggest benefit of it. And that's not true. That it's the same way not true as communism is good and working. No, communism doesn't work at all because then the dictator has it all. The party has it all, but the people own nothing. So, but I understand why people say also, even in interviews there, under communism, I at least had to eat and a roof over my head. So it's kind of like both sides, and that is why I'm a big promoter of capitalism with social support for everybody, that nobody falls through the net, that homeless crisis stops, that all of, like you cannot blame the whole homeless crisis disaster in the US with drugs. You have maybe 25-30% of them are drug
It's
addicts, the others
it's
are just poor,
yeah, no, it's like evolved. It's sort of like the system was fucked up even back in the day when they created the social services for the people. And I guess the people that it's catering to are people who are down and out for whatever reason, whether it be drugs, alcohol, they're poor. Um, but once people get into that system, they kind of get locked into that system forever.
Yeah,
Like it's really hard to get out of that system. And let's just say that happens through generations. Imagine the impact that would have psychologically on your family. You would accept this as normal. And I don't think it's normal. I don't think it should be normal. The people can't make it enough money to get the fuck out of this situation. It's a catch 22 because they're the workers, they're the peons. They don't matter. They should be lucky that they even have this, whatever. I get it. But it's, I don't believe that the answer lies in, I think it's like a system that failed on multiple levels. Different administrations treated it differently. Like I said in my video, the Reagan administration, what I remember as a child was way different than what it is today, with like a credit card where you can buy anything you want. So the Republicans don't like, I see what it was and I see what it is. And I see them looking at the past and I see them thinking, I want it to go back to with the government cheese and shit. Yeah, where we were online, desperate, and like trying to get food, and they would only give us a certain like government issued food, like a giant hunk of ham. Who the fuck eats a giant hunk of ham? Who the fuck eats a giant chunk of cheese? Today you can go to the supermarket and buy like different things or whatever. Some people abuse this system, the economy, everything has changed. The society has changed. And I think that every time society has changed in time, the system has like buckled under pressure. It can't handle the weight. They don't pre-envision that the growth is constant. The system isn't ready, isn't prepared for all this growth and growth and growth because they're like, "Yay, we just updated the system. We just updated our entire facility for 100,000 people at the new location." But now there's like demand for 200,000 people. So they have to can constantly be growing constantly be thinking about how can we cater. And the more people that you throw at the system, the harder it is for the system to process all these fucking people that like they have needs, whether they're valid or not is irrelevant. They're there. What do you do? Where does the money come from? It's a lot of money. Who does this job and who takes care of it? I think they're just like they're trying to do a humane thing to people who are so the people are not always so grateful for it. Some of them are resentful because they've been locked in the system so long. That's all they know. Like your great grandma was on fucking welfare or whatever the fuck. And that's kind of like what my family was like. We weren't on welfare, but we were poor for a long time, for generations, living in Harlem and Hell's Kitchen in New York. And bad shit happened because the poor just don't have the same resources. They don't get treated the same way with the same dignity as or people on the street. And I believe that they should have fucking dignity. I see the eyesore. I see the problem. I see that people are on the streets in San Francisco and something needs to change. It's changed from when I was in high school, even. It's changed a lot. Something needs to be done, but they're not demons. They should be rehabilitated. They probably don't understand what's wrong. It's all psychological. And that brings us back to mental health care in the United States. Mental health care is woefully behind. You want a system that the system can't handle all these people because half of them are fucking insane because they're drinking themselves to death because they're doing fucking heroin or some shit. They're
Yeah.
fucking, and you see the people on the streets on fentanyl dosing off, falling asleep. Like, I'm not sure if the young them could see them now. I'm sure the young them would be super ashamed because nobody dreams, I want to be there. I want to be passing out on the street corner. Hooray. No, that's not your dreams and that's not your fucking goals. This is just right now. It feels really great in that moment. That's why they put up with it. And it's the only thing that makes them feel good. Because life sucks that bad.
So
Those poor fucking people.
look at the classic Requiem for a Dream, that film, right? Where you have the slow deconstruction of young, energetic people and also of the Ellen Burstyn character. And then,
Yeah, the one who wants to
then
get
at one,
thin, right?
yes, and at one point you lose completely control. But it brings me to the Harris Trump debate
Oh,
because uh, everybody says Harris won. I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched maybe 15, 20 minutes, to be honest. But in one thing, I think when Trump says, okay, why are you not going to the White House, then it changed it. I mean, why were you waiting for? You were the vice president. Like, there's my mental problem with Harris is this.
yeah.
She was the vice president. They are in power now for over 3 years. So you cannot say, but now everything will change if you elect me, right? So because if all that stuff is so important for you, why you never brought it in the last 3.5 years? Nobody stopped her doing also a press conference, what she never did. Also could talk to Biden, for example, her 50,000 bucks tax break she wants to do for small businesses, right? What was stopping her for 3.5 years? So for me, this thing came only up now for strategic election campaign reasons. So that's the thing. And I think what I planted this thing, what I just said with Yeltsin and so on in Russia, is I think both sides are wrong. To be honest, I don't see
Well, which
Harris.
sides? The US and Russia or?
No, the Democrats and the Republicans.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because I think that really like the idea what Trump has on Elon Musk has and stuff like this is not really flying. It will also not succeed in anything because Elon Musk says, look, the inflation goes down when you never spend more. You shouldn't have a deficit. Blah 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 blah. But we all know that doesn't fly in the U.S. or any country in the world will ever come out of the deficits. The debt is not getting paid back, period. It's like, it's only the question if we can still pay the interest on the debt back. And if we can maybe have a year here or there where we actually don't do a new debt, where we just are what comes in from the taxpayers is that what they spend at not $1 more. That alone didn't work out in most of the countries for 50 years. And I think the idea to now save and cut all expenses, right, only the middle and lower class will suffer from it. That you don't get school books, you don't get food in school, because that will be the cuts, right? The cuts will be all happening. If an Elon Musk has something to say, because he cannot really identify with really people that have nothing, he will cut all the stuff because he said, you're only lazy because we give you social welfare, we give you free healthcare, because, but you should work and make your own money and pay your healthcare, all that stuff. But it doesn't lead to that people have a better life, or it doesn't lead to also more economic sense. I think that will fail.
Yeah,
And but I think
I
also
agree.
that Harris is also not really the solution. I think if she gets elected in, she is unfortunately one of the weakest possible candidates. Or but when you compare her, you can say about Clinton or Obama whatever you want, but they were real leaders. They were real presidents, right? And also Reagan and and Bush Senior, whatever. You can like these people or not, but they were really presidential, and they really had a kind of a concept that they lead from they lead, and the others are like helping them to lead. So it's this, and it's the same situation with in Germany with the government. Our chancellor is weak. It's like he has no own real perspective, and he has also not really his own way. And I think Harris is the same. I think Harris now also in the debate, she did this, what her election team told her to do. And when you're a real leader, when you be the president of the United States, that's the wrong approach. You have to come through like a clearance for yourself that that is what I think is good for America, and this is what I say now. And not like if you say this, you get 2% more in South Carolina. You know, that's
She
my
came
overall feeling. It's very bad.
she came in prepared. You should watch the whole thing. The biggest, I'm gonna just say this from like somebody who doesn't want Trump to win, but
Yeah.
I will say I will be honest with what I think he did wrong. And if Republicans are listening to this, you should take notes because I'm being honest, I'm not being divisive. If he wanted to win, where he really sunk was he was being very negative. He was like, he didn't get what she meant by like, he governs through fear. Like, if you don't elect me, the world is going to explode or
Yeah.
something. You know what I mean? Um, that's one thing that he failed in is that she was acting uplifting and talking about making money better for people and whatever the fuck groceries and stuff that people care about. And this is his biggest mistake, is he should have countered not with, oh, but you're wrong because of this in South Carolina or whatever the fuck. He should have said, no, we will do this with the grocery prices and that and that. He should have countered her with exactly what she was saying. Instead, he was um, angry and caught in her trap, in the snare of, I'm going to piss him off and get him in the ego. It's going to get the little barb in. He's going to be pissed off. Not only is he going to perform worse, he's not going to be as centered, because you could tell that he felt like even the people who were moderating the thing, I bet you they were paused for a long time because he thought that they were like, he accused them of being on the Democrat side or whatever. The problem that he doesn't get is that he is speaking to all Americans, and he has to win over the people that aren't hardcore Republicans. He has to make sense to the people like me or you who just take it on face value and don't believe the say. And he started countering her stuff with a lot of lies and bullshit that was like conspiracy theories made up on the TV. And he had moments to uplift people in the audience and talk about hope and recognize that things have been hard, not perfect, because they haven't been perfect yet. He tried to frame them as perfect. Um, Things have been hard, but we could do this together if you just give me another chance. It was my first time. I was just getting it together. Now's the real term where I make the real stuff. That's how I would push it if I was his fucking PR advisor. And you know what? That's a better gimmick than what they came up with. What they came up with was the same. She even said it. It's like a record on repeat. It's like the same old playbook. We've seen this before. And he operates on the cult of personality where people like Trump because of his garish obnoxiousness and how he goes for the jugular. But after a while, even the greats like Andrew Dice Clay became tired and his shtick got old. And then he became that guy from the 80s. Trump is the same thing where he has his celebrity, he's gone through his moment in the sun, and now he's burning it at both ends where people are burned out with his shtick. He needs a new shtick. He needs a new, fresh perspective. Sort of like how I'm setting the reset on my life. And
Mm.
a lot of stuff, you're the tone of this show, the tone of a lot of stuff. It's time to just take control. And you know what I mean? I don't think that he has that control. I think that he did a lot of coke in the 80s and it's probably fucked up his brain. So he doesn't have the concentration. And Harris is young, and compared to him, and she probably has not poisoned her mind, whatever. I'm not saying it's all about drugs, but like she probably has an advantage where she's like more mentally astute at the very least. So yeah, he needs a new playbook. He needs a new fucking team. He needs someone who really gets people. That's like, you have to have your pulse on the heartbeat of the people. You have to know what the people want. You have to know what the people like. It's half of it. He operates on that shit. He needs to know this. The people he has around him, they're so loyal, but they're fucking clueless because they have no experience in this kind of thing. Look at someone like me
One
who's,
second, second.
yeah. Oh,
No, I thought there was somebody coming in, but
okay. Anyway,
yeah.
you get my point.
Yes. No, no, I agree. I think uh the what I feel with Trump, what is his, similar to what you say, what is his worst attribute
Mhm.
is that he thinks he has to look always so strong that he knows everything, that he has no weakness, and that he presents nonstop. And that's not human.
Yep.
And I think the vulnerability, like what the Clinton had, what the Obama had, where you felt sometimes they were struggling emotionally to do the thing, and they were not so sure about stuff. And I think that is actually very positive. That is a positive personality character point. If you don't try to appear like a superhero the whole time, and I think he never gives in Trump. Like he's just blaming everybody. And as you said, he's completely negative. He tries to win elections based on talking everybody down, telling everybody what piece of shit they are and have no clue what they're doing. He will solve all the problems, and that makes him after a while dated, right? It makes you, because every human being knows that's not how life is, you know. And look, when he, for example, when he says, "I finished the Ukraine war in one day," okay, so if he gets elected and that doesn't happen, what do you want to do then? How
Well,
you
you know what he fucked up in
Oh,
the
you want to
fucking
sugarcoat it like, oh shit, they don't do peace. So, like, I mean, that's the thing, right? So it's like he
in the
brings
debate,
himself in
dude.
this dead end situation where, uh, what is if he doesn't do it?
Dude, in the debate, Kamala said directly to him, she accused him. She said, if you give Trump Ukraine,
Putin, Ukraine.
if you give him the responsibility of what's going to happen, he'll come in and in day one, he'll just hand it over to Putin and that'll be it. And she asked Trump, the moderators, because what it was one of them would say something, the moderators would keep it centered by saying, how do you feel about the same subject?
Yeah.
Sometimes he would answer, sometimes he wouldn't. In this case, he deflected the entire question. He didn't answer the question. He was accused of like doing one thing and then he was ambiguous with his answer. That just makes people think she's right. So he needs to be smarter with the way that plausible deniability cannot be transparent, cannot be paper thin. It has to be a little more, at least pretend to be transparent. Like you said, there's nothing humanizing about him. The only thing that was humanizing about him was, well, let's see the humanizing things about him. He almost got shot. That made everybody love him for a minute. Um, um, the religious people love him because he waves Bibles in the air and shit. That's two. And three, I don't know. I think that's probably. Can you think of one more thing that humanizes the Pizza Hut commercials that he was in? I can't think of one more thing that makes him look like a real human being. He
Home
looks like
Alone.
Home Alone. Okay, there we go. All
Yeah,
right. Christmas classic.
yeah. And no, but look, in Celebrity Apprentice, sometimes he showed a little he was not only negative in that show, right? So he was sometimes giving people credit and say you did that good and whatever. What he never did as a president to everybody, like to work under him in the that was the thing when she said in your term everybody got fired the whole time, and he said yeah because they all did a shitty job, but but then he forgot to say but he hired all of them. He made them Secretary of Defense. He brought Pence in as his VP, whatever. The only person who didn't get because he always shut up, Pence. And
Dude, I want you to go after this episode, watch the debate, and then on the next show, tell me what you think after you've seen it. Because a lot of the shit you're saying is right there in the debate, and it's shocking how unprepared he was for these questions. It's painful to watch. You should watch it.
yeah, okay, I watch it all. I was just like because we had a debate here in Germany about the whole migration thing in the parliament too, and I was tired of this was the same evening basically, and I was like this kind of I couldn't listen to politics anymore at that point, right? Because they all have their agenda and they all try to squeeze out, and they're all this kind of rhetorically schooled to not dig themselves a grave, basically, right? So that they can squeeze out in any direction. Nah, yeah, but whatever. Okay, so I think for today we have it, right? And
Everybody, thank you for supporting Uwe Boll Raw
yeah,
USA. We are in the process of a rebrand, so you will notice the website is down. We're gonna go with like a new art style, a new like attitude moving forward. And Uwe Ball is on Twitter, and you can follow him at Uwe Ball 7 on Twitter. And we hope that everybody buys First Shift, which is available now on Amazon and iTunes and all major reputable streamers
yeah.
across the internet. Is it still in the theater?
No, I think it was only 1 week. That was
Okay.
clear. It was just advertising for them. But we are right now in theaters in Germany, in all kinds of sneak previews, in all of Germany. And I get some good feedback from people. They really liked the film, and the German dubbing looked also okay for them. So,
Good.
okay, then I say to everybody, see you next week. Bye.